Welcome back to the Doll Mom Podcast. My name's Mal. Today we have such a fun and exciting episode. I have been looking forward to this all week. Okay, like I've been counting down the days until we were recording this because I'm just so excited. Today we have on Aidan. Aidan worked at American Girl Kansas City. That's how we both met each other. And I'm super duper excited to have you on the podcast today, Aidan.
Well, thank you for having me. I wish you were recording visuals because you would see like a gigantic grin because I'm so excited to be here too.
I'm super duper excited to have you. Today, we're going to be getting to know Aidan. How did Aidan get into dolls and specifically American Girl dolls, into the doll social media world, and then her time at our beloved American Girl Kansas City store. So wish it was still open. Okay, if American Girl's listening, which they're probably not, but hey, you never know. If they are thinking about bringing back stores, the first store that they need to bring back is Kansas City, okay? We're going to be talking about Aidan's time working there. What did she do there? How did she get into it and all this stuff? So I feel like without further ado, since I'm really excited, let's get this episode started with. Aidan, how did you get into dolls?
Well, I don't ever remember a time where I didn't have dolls. And apparently when I was a baby, my mom took me to doll shows, and some of the ladies like to tell me, we remember when you were the doll that she would carry around. But yeah, my mom never had a lot of dolls growing up. And so she, when I came around, was like, all the dolls. And so I had dolls from my earliest memories.
I love that. That is so sweet. I've never been to a doll show before. I need to go sometime because I feel like they would be really cool.
You do need to go to a doll show. Some of them can be a little disappointing, but some of them can be really amazing.
Yeah. I follow this one creator. She lives out in Los Angeles, and I guess there's like a big doll show in Los Angeles that happens like 3 or 4 times a year. And like, I'm just like, that just sounds so wonderful. Like, why can't we have something around? Anyways, yeah.
Yeah, well, growing up, we had doll shows like at least 2 or 3 a year. And
wow.
They've really cut back because a lot of the doll ladies are dying off.
Oh.
So we have to revive it.
I know you through American Girl dolls. How do you even remember getting into American Girl dolls?
I do. So my mom saw the books at B. Dalton Booksellers. I don't even know if you know what B. Dalton Booksellers is.
No, I don't, sadly.
They were like a little mall bookstore, and they went out of business. They were bought up by, I think, Barnes & Noble, and then they shut them all down. But they had a deal that she saw that if you bought the books, you could get the dolls for like a discount. And so she ordered them, and they are still in their shipper box because she was like, no, these are too expensive for you to play with. These are looking dolls. So we have the original Pleasant Company shipper box with the label still on it with the original 3. So I knew I had them, and I would look at them and sometimes sneak them out and play with them because I was a naughty child, and then put them back in to make them look like they hadn't been touched. But I loved the books. So the books I was always obsessed with. I remember meeting my grandma's sister right after my grandma passed away when I had just turned 7 when I met her. And she was like, oh, you can get any book you want. Happy birthday, Kirsten, because we were in Minnesota, because that's where my grandma's family was from. And I was like, this is so perfect because she's also from Minnesota. And that was the first book that I remember having. I checked them out of the library before that. But also, we used to have tea parties every year at our local library, and people would dress up as the dolls. So even though I never brought the doll to the tea party, I did dress up every year for a while.
That's so special. Oh my goodness. And that's so cool that you have like the original shipper boxes. Like, what an icon. Like, oh my goodness, a piece of American Girl history right there. Like, legendary.
My mom was really worried about them. So, but now I think it's cool. I was not a big fan as a kid, but I appreciate it now.
Yeah, I could, like, I'm still to this point, I can never, like, I can't throw away my boxes to the American Girl, even though I don't use them for anything. They're empty boxes. I just can't, like, get myself to throw them away, which I feel like that maybe is, like, a hoarder issue or something. But, like, it's so cool. I keep them all in the attic, but it's so cool, like, just to go up there and just kind of just see the different eras of the boxes and how, like, they progressed over time. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, they're part of history. And I also know, like, if your kids ever want to get rid of your dolls when you have them,
Oh,
having
don't say
those.
that.
I only say that because I know a doll collector here that she has all of her boxes. And so her kids are pressuring her to get rid of them. And it's nice if you have the boxes.
You said you had the first three dolls.
Mm-hmm.
So did you get them all at the same time, or did one of them, did they kind of happen over time? I guess what I'm asking is, who was your first doll, or maybe even your favorite doll out of the three?
So they all came together. They're all in the same box together. And it was right when they were switching over the body types. So Samantha's actually a white body, and the other two are tan bodies, which I think is also pretty cool because they all came at the same time.
That is so neat.
It's so hard because I loved Samantha just because she was so fancy, but Kirsten's story was so close to my own family's story because my great grandma had immigrated from Norway to Minnesota. So there was always like, it's close Sweden and Norway, and that immigrant story was special to me. But then Felicity came out and I was like, Felicity is my favorite now because I've always been obsessed with red hair.
You can't go wrong with any of them. They have amazing stories, amazing collections. I just love them all.
They do. I can't tell you how many hours I spent as a kid circling all the things I wanted, which was basically just everything in the catalog.
Yes. Yes, I did that too when I was little, and I open my catalogs now, like looking back, and I just see all these circles everywhere, and I was like, oh my goodness.
Sometimes I'd be mean to myself, and I'd be like, if you could only have one thing from each page, which one would you choose?
Ooh.
And some pages were easier than others, but it was like a game, I guess.
Do you collect any other doll brand besides American Girl?
Oh, too many dolls. So I started with Cabbage Patch Kids because those were like the first dolls my mom bought me. And then every year for Christmas, I would get one for a long time. But Barbie, I feel like, was probably one of the first ones also. And then I've always loved Madame Alexander's. And I miss Tuesday Morning because that's where I bought a lot of my Madame Alexander dolls because they're expensive.
Yeah.
But I also do Integrity because of Gem and the Holograms and the original, like all the toys from the early 90s, late 80s that I still have all of those. So I guess those are technically a collection too. And then, Robert Tonner. I also love Tonner dolls and just so many dolls. And then my mom collects dolls too. So there's always dolls everywhere in my family.
I love that. You named a couple of them that I've never heard of before, like Robert Tonner.
Oh, he does beautiful fashion dolls. And I got into him originally because he did Harry Potter dolls for the movies.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah, Hermione in her gown is just gorgeous. So he does some that are like likenesses, and then he has a line that's called Ellen Wild, and she has ennui, and so they're these like elaborate, kind of sad looking dolls. I don't know. I fell in love with them. And that's actually the lady I mentioned earlier that's in her 80s. That's how I met her because she was at a doll show and she had this fabulous doll. And I was like, oh my gosh, I should send you pictures of some of them.
I really want to see them now. I'm interested. Moving into like the social media world, how did you get into the doll social media world?
I'm going to blame Abby for that. So, Kalindra, we are good friends, and she would send me stuff, and I was like, I didn't even know this world existed because the social media I do is in a very different sphere. So she started sending me these things, and then I would see other people comment, and that's how I kind of got into it. And then she was like, oh, this is the girl who always comes into our store, you. And that kind of led me down the rabbit hole even further, because it was fun to see what people do with their dolls. I was also going to mention with the dolls, I just this past year bought my first Monster High doll ever and my first Bratz dolls ever.
Ooh.
So,
oh my goodness.
They're not going to be a collection though.
No, that's like me. Like, I have just started, like, okay, I loved Barbie dolls growing up, okay? And I used to play with them around the same time as that I was into American Girls, you know, growing up, all the dolls. And I couldn't even tell you when I stopped buying Barbie dolls. I was really obsessed with the Barbie Chelseas. I think maybe I stopped in like 2018 or something. It was just getting hard to like kind of balance everything and stuff.
I totally understand.
And I kind of like grew up realizing, well, I'm spending money on both things, and my heart is really with American Girl dolls and in the 18-inch doll world because, you know, I love more than just American Girl. I could use the money that I'm spending with Chelsea's, which adds up over time because they do have a lot of sets and a lot of dolls, which I love that about them. I can use that money and I can get more stuff for my 18-inch dolls, which is what, you know, my heart is at the time. So it was a little bit sad to kind of walk away, but I will say, though, I have bought many Barbies within the past year. I don't know what it is, but it's like they're like creeping back into my life, you know, and I'm like, I can't really do this. But at the same time, I love this doll.
It's so hard and like constantly like trying to balance, like, what can I get? And
I will say, I have gotten some, like the recent Monster High purchase that I've done was Wednesday. And
that's the one I got too.
Yes, I loved that one so much. Oh my goodness. And then before that, it was like the reproductions, like the creep productions of like Draculaura, Claudine, Laguina Blue, Frankenstein, or Frankie. Yeah, you could tell I'm like not really into it because I don't really know their names, but it's okay.
Well, they came out at the same time as Ever After High.
Yes, and I was much more into Ever After High than I was in Monster High. We'll say that. Like, that's a doll brand I want back.
Those, and I collected those. I guess there's so many dolls over the years.
Yeah. Okay, so Aidan, when did you work for American Girl?
So I started in the summer of 2015, and I think it was June when I got hired. And then I worked up until Joss's release in 2020 because I had to go back to school, and then the pandemic happened and our store was no more. It was so sad.
So sad. Yeah, I remember seeing you at American Girl Kansas City. Okay, trying to keep this podcast episode positive-ish.
It's so hard.
Yes, it is very hard because, you know, the Kansas City store means so much for not just me, but for everybody else who went there, who worked there, and whoever got to visit it. And I feel like, you know, the people who have, you know, lost their store, I'm sure it's very hard to talk about. Trying to be positive, you know, try not to make this episode depressing and so then I don't start bawling, you know? I think that's what made the store just so magical is that you could really tell the employees loved being there. And I know a couple of the employees were collectors themselves, and I feel like that is what kind of makes a store more special because you're getting to interact with these employees that love the dolls just as much as you do. So I feel like that is just something that I don't think could be replicated to other stores, just the magic that Kansas City had with employees.
I am not a good interviewer, so every job that I've gotten, I've known somebody that worked there already, except for American Girl, because I just had so much enthusiasm and like so much knowledge already that they were like, okay, yeah, we'll hire you.
See, and that's another thing why I love American Girl too. Like, they love when you have passion for the product.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's talk about your positions during your time at American Girl Kansas City.
Okay, so I was a seasonal associate. So I would work usually June into August when it was our busiest season. And then I would come back, you know, maybe 2-3 weeks over the holidays And it was great because they were like, yeah, you can work for 2 weeks. We'd love that. And so those are the hours I worked. And especially during the holiday, I was working almost full time, which is really funny because all my colleagues are like, oh, I just need a break. And I'm like, I'm going to go work at American Girl like 36 hours a week for the next 3 weeks. They're like, you're crazy. And I'm like, I'm so excited.
I did not realize that they had summer seasonals, or would you even consider that to be summer, June through August? I feel like you would. I just thought they did holiday ones. So that's really cool.
Yeah, because we would get an increase because of vacations and traveling. And so we would have more hours available. So they brought in more people during that time. And depending on how busy or like what other activities were happening would depend on how many hours we would get. But we also did like, we would go to Starlight and do all the events. So they would always need more coverage during that time because of all the events and all the girls that were coming in for all the events and birthday parties. There's a lot more birthday parties in the summer too.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That just sounds so much fun. Oh my gosh.
But so that's like the time frame it worked, but I guess I should tell you what my actual position was.
Which brings me to my next question, actually.
Okay.
What was your actual, I guess, physical positions?
I was a doll hairstylist. So I was paid to play with dolls. It was like the best job ever, which sounds really silly, given what I do for like my main job, but I would rather work at an American Girl and play with dolls. And so we would, check in the girls or boys sometimes, and they would come in with their dolls. We'd talk to them. We'd figure out what hairstyle. And then, we'd beautify the dolls, pamper them, do their nails, pierce their ears, do all the hairstyles. And yeah, that was my main position.
That is so cool. Like, the hairstylists on American Girl just blow me away because I'm someone who cannot do hair to save them life. Goes on myself, goes for the dolls. Like, you probably look at pictures of my dolls and be like, oh my God, their hairs need to be brushed. I know. I'm like fully aware. Sorry, I'm a bad doll mom. I can't do doll hair, but it's okay.
I mean, we had pretty intensive training when we start. They teach you how to do it, and then you have to practice. And they would come and teach us some of them, or some of them they had video tutorials that we'd like watch the TV on top of the refrigerator as we were trying to replicate them. And we were not allowed to work on customers' dolls until we had been okayed on all of the hairstyles.
Wow.
So you could totally do it. It just takes, some time to work on it.
So how many hairstyles did you have to like first learn?
It was also, we started with straight hair and then we would do like the wavy and then the curly, trying to work our way up to, the mess that can be a child's doll. There was at least a dozen hairstyles, I want to say.
Okay.
We had like the twisties and we had like, the basket weave and the heart braid. That was the hardest. But yeah, there was a lot of different hairstyles and you'd start out on one and then kind of work your way up to the other ones.
Wow.
It was really nice because they were really supportive of like making sure you were ready for everything. They gave you all the training. And it's funny because I didn't even learn how to use the cash register until like 2018 or 2019. And they're like, I guess you're going to be coming back every holiday, so we should probably train you finally on this. So yeah, they really make sure that your specialty, you're really good at it.
What did an average day look like?
So we'd get there and clock in, put all of our stuff in our little locker. If there was any information, we had like a bulletin board with all the different information that we needed to know, hit the floor, greet customers. And for the most part, I spent most of my day at the hair salon, obviously. So it would be, if you weren't actively working on a doll or with customers, you'd be like refilling, organizing, cleaning out the stuff because, we were using baking powder, or baking soda, not baking powder. always get those two mixed up. That would get around, and and the doll hair would be everywhere. So you'd be cleaning. And then I also would like to volunteer a lot to help restock. So I would help our back of house staff and, pull the things that we had sold, because we would restock every hour. They would pull these are all the things we sold. So go ahead and fill all those holes so that we always looked full, which was really nice. So I would do that and, talk to the people that worked there and made friendships. I feel like we're going to have some lifelong friendships. There's some group texts that we have created since the store closed, and we text each other, every few days or every week. Right after it closed, it was every day because we were just so sad. But that was basically what the everyday was. And then it was nice also because they had a cleaning crew. So we took care of a lot of stuff, but our store was always spotless because of the people that worked there. And
I love that. If time machines ever become available in the near future, I highly recommend everybody to get one so they can go back and travel to the American Girl Kansas City store, because in my personal opinion, there is not a store that was like it. It was just so special. And you talk about the cleanness. I remember seeing them clean all the time, and I remember seeing them stock all the time. It was just so well put together and executed. What was your favorite thing about working at the Doll Hair Salon?
Getting to interact with all of the people, because we were much more hands-on, I feel like, than other positions, especially back of house. They didn't see people a lot. But, every day we were talking to people who loved their dolls, moms that had come in that they brought in their childhood doll and they wanted it cleaned up for their kids or to preserve for later on. And, little kids that came in or older kids, and everybody just loved their dolls. I still remember one little girl came in and she's like, "This is my doll. Her name's Cauliflower." And it was one of the Biddy twins. And I was like, "Oh, what's her brother's name?" And I was like, "Is it Broccoli?" And she's like, "No, it's George." Which cracked me up. And we even though George wasn't officially checked in, we gave him a little brush through. So they both got a little pampering, and it was just really fun to be around people who loved the dolls as much as we did.
Did you have a favorite doll to style?
I really liked doing the historical dolls back to their original hairstyles. Some of those were difficult, like Addie and Kirsten, but that was really fun, especially dolls that we hadn't had in the store for a while.
Okay, kind of moving on. What advice would you give someone wanting to work for American Girl?
So the first thing I would say is don't give up, because I actually applied the year before I started working there, but they were hiring for a different type of position and they wanted somebody that could have more availability. So keep looking at the boards and don't give up. If they don't call you the first time, just keep sending in that resume. And then when you get to the interview, just, if you love American Girl, let them know. Don't be too crazy, but let your enthusiasm show a little bit so that they really do get a sense of why you like it. I'd also say, I think they've kind of pulled back on the conservatism of the uniform and stuff, but be presentable when you go in for your interview. No crazy hair or makeup or anything like that.
Given the chance, would you work for American Girl again?
In a heartbeat. My main job teaching in higher ed is kind of coming to an end. And so I've been looking for jobs in different markets. And one of the things that I look at when I'm looking at markets, I'm like, do they have an American Girl? Could I work on the weekends at American Girl? So yes, I would love to work for American Girl again. I just wish they weren't in I like that they had more modest big cities. It was a really fun job. I mean, it's a job, so there's times when you're like, ugh. but like with any job, but overall it was like something that I looked forward to, and all my colleagues were like, knew that I was looking forward for the break so that I could go work at American Girl. And
we have reached the end of this episode. I think we're on like episode 42 now, which is absolutely crazy to say that it's the end of it. I had such a blast talking with you, Aidan. This was so much fun. Oh my goodness. You are welcome back anytime that you want to come on.
I had so much fun too. Like, it was so fun to talk dolls with somebody.
Thank you so much for coming on. Like, this episode, perfection. I love it so much. Thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I feel like I'm not as cool as the other IG people, but
No.
I'm really happy that you asked me to be on.
No, you are so cool, girl. Like, don't discredit yourself. If you want to follow Aidan, she has a Instagram and a YouTube, but her YouTube and Instagram is kind of geared towards makeup and perfume, which is super duper so much fun. I love watching her videos. I will link her YouTube channel and Instagram down in the description of this podcast episode. It is at englishprofstyle. Once again, the link to those platforms will be in the description of this podcast episode. My name's Mal. I am at Dollies and Rainbows on YouTube, Instagram. We're on TikTok, pretty much everywhere on the internet. If you want to follow me, you should definitely go check out my podcast social media handles at Doll Mom Podcast. It's the podcast that you are currently listening to right now. We're on Instagram, Threads, Facebook, TikTok. Very much fun on those platforms. And yeah, I want to thank you is whatever, listening to this podcast episode right now. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you have a great time, great day, great whatever you are listening to this until we talk next. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for listening.